Sweden's king on coronavirus strategy. We have failed.
Here's a summary of the article.
Sweden's king said in a new address that the country's strategy to slow the spread of COVID-19 has failed, as the fatality count in the Scandinavian country continues to rise. Carl XVI Gustaf told residents of the country in his annual Christmas address that Sweden has suffered enormously amid the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, and it is traumatic that many loved ones of the nearly 8,000 people who have died from COVID-19 were unable to say goodbye to them in person. Advertisement. Sweden has resisted implementing a nationwide lockdown during the coronavirus pandemic, unlike many of its fellow European nations. Swedish officials are reportedly considering implementing lockdowns as some of the country's intensive care units reach capacity, The New York Times reported this week. Sweden has reported approximately 1,700 COVID-19 fatalities in the last month, compared to approximately 100 deaths each in Finland and Norway. The countries both have approximately half of Sweden's population. Sweden's top infectious disease expert said late last month that the country has not seen evidence of herd immunity slowing the spread of COVID-19 in the country.
This post received a score of 33,000, with an upvote ratio of 90%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Isn't the US much worse? Not that Sweden couldn't do better, but trying to put this in more context.
Yep, the US has 50% higher cases per capita, and 23% higher deaths per capita.
It's primarily because all countries in Europe had a defined first and second peak, but US's first peak just rolled into the second and then into the third. While things were pretty peachy during the summer in most of Europe.
Yes, one of the primary reasons for numbers being bigger is them not going down.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Wait, can you explain it again?
Numbers stay big because numbers no go small.
I think I understand. There was evidence of systemic electoral fraud.
Wow, this is now a fact.
Well, of course not, because the percentage of population that needs to be infected with the nCoV-2 virus for even a mediocre herd immunity effect is like 50%, and at that point you are going to have a lot more than 1,700 dead people per month, due to intensive care units reaching capacity literally everywhere. It was so obvious that this wasn't going to work. To be honest, I'm surprised they made it for a year without getting hammered.
Maybe not completely, 100%, absolutely certain at the very beginning. However, after a very bad first wave, maybe the worst in Europe, Spain made a study that showed only 5% of the population had antibodies. That was back in May, 6 months ago. Since then and until now, the only way to not see that attempting to reach herd immunity through natural infections is not the way to go is by putting your head under the sand.
Literally the US strategy right now. I mean, we've been just as bad throughout. At no time during US lockdowns was a person unable to drive themselves to an airport and go wherever, rent a car when they got there, stay at hotels, etc.
To me that sounds so crazy, as here in South Africa we had one of the strictest lockdowns in the world during the latter half of March into May. We could leave the house only if it was for groceries, medical emergencies, or if we were essential workers.
It seemed almost everyone was deemed an essential worker in the US during our lockdown. And by essential, we mean expendable. It really seems like the lower your salary is, the more likely you are essential.
'Cause you're making our overlords money. They's worth more to them. Funny how so many COVID deniers pointed to Sweden as an example of why shutdowns were unnecessary. Of course they won't see this article, or they'll just ignore it as it doesn't suit their idiotic narrative.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.